Weekly Feed. I'm Kyle Meredith, sitting here with Gareth and Tom from Los Campensinos. Welcome, guys.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, you've come a long way.
In geographical terms,
Sure.
or in career-wise?
You've come a long way, baby.
More in geographical-wise.
You're referring to the crow's feet around our
I should also tell you, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to thank you guys or damn you guys. So days before I'm starting to think about this interview and anything, I end a relationship. Yeah,
Okay.
It's an end of a relationship. And then I start diving into your albums a bit heavier than I ever have, and I think, well, this is either convenient or the worst possible state I could have ever done.
Well, that's good. Good. It's timing. It might not be good timing, but it's timing. Yeah.
I know it's been written a lot about, the type of songs you do, especially your lyrics in itself. And I mean, girls have to be terrified to date you at some point. And if it hasn't happened, it's got to get to it.
Yeah, not necessarily for that reason, but no, it can work both ways. I think it can make people apprehensive about entering into a relationship, but on the other hand, some people who you sort of quickly learn to avoid have sort of been excited about the prospect of perhaps having a song written about them, so you know not to go there.
Gareth's pretty smart, and like, he knows now. I've tried kind of like just
Sure.
when he's drunk, just to see if I can worm my way into.
It's like,
Sure.
I know you only want it for a song.
Has it affected the rest of the band any? In the
what
same
way,
way,
sorry?
in the same way, if any of you all are dating someone, is it like,
I hadn't considered that.
No.
Not really. I mean, I guess we all get tired of your kind of sad.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, all our fans know it's Gareth that writes the words, and so it's kind of it's him that gets.
It's my fault.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he shoulders that one.
Yeah.
So occasionally I'll get like a nerdy little kid being like, "Hey, what's this guitar chord?" And I'll be like,
It's your turn to kick you out.
yeah, which is great. Yeah.
Are you surprised in your lyrics how people are still kind of taken aback sometimes by the content? I mean, if Madonna does whatever she does in '82 and it blows up the world and it's controversy, then why is it still controversial now?
Are you asking him to get his nipples out?
I would love for that to happen right here on camera.
I don't really. It's weird. I find it quite often. I mean, it happened in Chicago a couple of days ago when somebody will come up to you after a show, because we always meet people after the show and they'll come up and they'll be really sort of sincerely like, your lyrics mean so much, they really connect with me, and I just feel incredibly embarrassed and sort of embarrassed for myself and embarrassed for them, because I don't think that I couldn't imagine myself going up to somebody whose music I liked and sort of opening myself up like that. So
Right.
they're brave, but also it's a situation that I don't know how to deal with. You can't really go, yeah, great, thanks, yeah, I'm wonderful, and equally, I don't know what you're supposed to do. So it's weird. It's incredibly flattering, obviously, but I think still, 6 years down the line, any sort of reverence that we receive or any sort of enthusiasm that we receive from people still confuses us as to why it has happened and why it continues to happen. So we're very ill-equipped to deal with those situations when they arise.
Let's say something about their own lives too. If they're saying, I can relate to that, I mean, you're thinking, that was a pretty crappy situation I was in. I'm sorry you went through that.
Yeah, but then I don't know whether I'm supposed to be like, oh, come on, tell me about it, or if I should
Take them to the bar.
I
And,
just shake them and be like, yeah, drink this, it's gonna be okay. Yeah, I'm just terrible at dealing with. I just say thank you, and we are very grateful, but it still blows our mind that anybody cares about us. So yeah.
I guess more on that subject too. I haven't seen it, but there's a show that's kind of blew up, I think, on HBO called Girls, and it's all about the just these odd moments. And
It's funny you should mention. I was speaking to somebody today who just started watching it today, and they were saying how great it was. So that's going to be my next thing to check out. I've heard
if you get
lots of
placements
positive
in
things.
this, I think it might just be perfect.
I think maybe one of our friends' bands recently had a place. I think Dan and Aykroyd.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. So that would. I believe that the cast of that show is very attractive young females, and that is our target market.
That's it. That's
so
what it works.
yeah.
I guess on the subject of placements too. I mean, it's been talked about quite a bit, but you guys got a pretty lucrative placement, recently, and which was great. I guess what I'm curious about, you look back on what you guys say a lot of your influences are, which ends up being a lot of U.S. college bands of the '90s and stuff like that, which is also interesting. That it's not really, you're not saying it's Pulp or it's Oasis or it's all that. It ends up being the U.S. and everything. But there was a mentality. I mean, if you grew up, if you came of age on that type of music and the idea of placements and everything else, I mean, it was very anti, and that did change. I mean, it's no news that changed in the last decade, but to come from that kind of influence and then to be on the other side of the fence where you guys are saying this is how we make a living.
It is a weird one, and it was obviously something we thought about a lot. But in the past few years, we've also seen kind of like there's less stigma attached to doing it, because like even among fans, you see them sort of like almost empathise or sympathise, which is kind of weird because they're the ones that not buying the song.
Yeah,
so they almost sort of understand that you need to make a living, and also that in the same way, like bands are happy to kind of play festivals where those same brands are funding those festivals, like, and it's it's just kind of the way it is. Like, it's the only way bands can survive. And
recently, we were offered. We didn't actually find out how much money they were offering because we stopped it before it got to that point. But the very same song, "You Me Dancing," a arms selling company.
So a private arms company for an internal TV.
Yeah, like some end of year, like video roundup or something. They wanted to use that song, pay us to use that song, and we thought, well, there was the idea of the money that they give us to use the track won't be being spent on guns and bombs. That's good, but equally, I don't think that would really fly with people outside. Yeah.
So we're fine with drinking. We're not fine with shooting.
Exactly.
So, well, whatever keeps you guys going, I think.
Exactly.
Is the point right here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And
I don't think we'd be here now if we didn't get a bit of money from Budweiser.
It's kind of depressing, but that's the reality, Like.
Now, the music has gotten better and better. Hello Sadness, this new record, I think is finally, and I don't mean that against any other records, but it finally does seem like you guys have figured it out. For whatever the first record sounded like one thing, and you guys develop a little bit on the second record, and as you go along with the EPs, and now you're here, and this sounds great, and whatever it's doing,
That means a lot.
Yeah. One thing I'm curious, and about your writing style, which once again does get written about a lot, and I think it's something you wrote on your website about the beautiful South.
Right. Okay.
Because I guess you didn't always. I mean, did you grow up wanting to be a writer?
No, not at all.
Right. So you kind of came into this a bit late in the game, even.
Well, I think we all did, really. I think when we formed as a band, when we were all sort of 20, 21, our music. I still don't have any musical ability, but the musical ability of the people who play instruments within the band was a beginner level. Well, better than beginner, but we were all very much finding our feet, and nobody knew how to use an amp or to change guitar strings or anything, and we very much. It's weird how our first ever songs we recorded have been heard by people. Like every song we've ever written has been recorded, and it's not as if we had time that we were, gigging for a year or whatever, trying out songs and getting rid of them and stuff. So people who followed our band from the start really have sort of progressed with us and sort of been able to hear how our musical abilities improve, and apart from the sort of studio sheen which we were able to use to make us seem a bit better than we were. But it's nuts that we ended up like this because we had no intention of. I think we were all too sort of grounded and reasonable to ever think that being in a band was something that you would want to do when you grew up.
You're either kind of cynical or pragmatic, but like I would never sort of have let myself kind of dream about being in a band. It was kind of like you've got to get a proper job, and like that doesn't happen to anyone I know.
And I think that's been to our benefit as well, because we've had friends who formed bands and got really carried away with it and been like, we can be famous, we can do this for a job, and they've some people who've quickly realised that they couldn't, or some people that sort of 10 years on, there's these people I went to school with so when I was like 16, who formed a band, and they're still together now 11 years on, and they've sort of spent big money on going into big studios, and they're still playing the same songs that they were playing 8 years ago, and it's like they went to music college especially to do the band and make it happen. And I think when you've got that sort of cynical intention, you're only going to be disappointed.
You're almost putting like pressure on yourself. And I think with us, like, we didn't expect it, but then when we did get into the opportunity, given the opportunity, we sort of felt like we really had to make the most of it, and so we kind of started to take it seriously once we were got a label. And
Well, I think it only, I mean, usually it takes a band, 15, 20 years to look back and be embarrassed about those first few years. I mean, are you guys, is it painful to look at that first record at this point? Because I guess it has sounded like you've come a long way so quickly.
I think it would be more painful to listen to than it would be to think about.
yeah,
Because that first record sounds terrible. And there are lyrics from certain songs which I now, I would never write now, and
Yeah.
I'm sort of embarrassed by. I was trying a bit too hard. On
But they
some
connect with
occasions.
people.
They do,
Yeah.
and I just feel sorry for those people. No, no, it's odd that
Yeah.
I like to see records now as kind of like just a sort of a document of that period in time, and so it's kind of I'm not embarrassed by it. I like to see the progression and kind of like, I mean, it's good that we can look back and feel like we've improved, because if we look back and we're like, that's way better than what we're doing now, and sort of, yeah. So.
Okay, I guess you look back on that too, and there's always themes. I mean, for writers, musicians, everything, it seems like when you get to certain ages, you will get to those traps of certain themes and everything. What is it about 20s that makes you want to think about death? Why in your 20s do you want to think about
I
death?
think
what is
That's
that?
what we're still figuring out.
Yeah, I think sort of late 20s, the age that we're at now, is a very odd time, and I realise that saying that in front of people that maybe are a little bit older.
I think I've only got you about like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, but that's that is.
But it's a pop culture generation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and sort of kind of at the age now where 26, 27, and if you mention being old in front of anybody older, they're like, oh, you think,
Oh, right,
I remember,
right, yeah,
that sort of thing.
yeah.
But late 20s is sort of stuck in this weird area where you're sort of too old to, you're at an age where you have to be grown up and you have to act in a grown up way, but if you act too grown up, people are like, oh, but you're still so young, you've got to, you can't settle, you can't, you've got to enjoy yourself whilst you're still young. And so it's this weird limbo where I think as soon as you sort of hit 30, you're allowed to, I hope so, you're allowed to
So far, so
rest.
good.
And oh good, I'm
Yeah,
glad.
so far so good.
It's kind of like a sort of arrested development in being in a band as well, because we haven't had to sort of come to terms with
Yeah,
a real
it's
job,
weird.
and so we're sort of putting off maturity in a way.
Yeah. It's just funny that, of all decades, I mean, you look and, hopefully you have 80 years in front of you, and still that's when you start going, man, mortality, that's lousy, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know, because like in your teens, like there's enough kind of that's well documented how difficult that is. I guess kind of raging hormones, whatever, and your 20s isn't really kind of spoken about in that way. I think it's almost like things have been shifted back 10 years as well. So many people go to like college and university now in the UK. Like previously, like coming out of school at 16, you'd have to settle down, get a job then. And now coming out of university at 23, it's kind of like everything's delayed a bit. So those difficult decisions and coming to terms with those difficult things has sort of been put back, and we're putting it back even further by
Yeah.
having
Yeah, I
fake
guess being
job.
in a band is like an indefinite period of time where you're still at school.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I mean, this is the toy business right here. You get to be a kid forever if you can stick around in it. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
Good luck
better,
with
for
that.
worse. Yeah.
all right. Hello, Sadness is a great triumph. Thank you guys so much for taking the time today and sitting around
pleasure.
with me.
Thank you. It's been a nice
It's been
one.
fun. Look forward to seeing the show.
Yeah. Cheers, Carl.
All
Thank
right,
you.
cool.